We'll make sure you're not bored to death, but all your friends have disappeared, and you're the last one left. If you want to live, I suggest not doing drugs and having sex. Run through the forest grasping for breath, as you're chased by a maniac wearing a mask of flesh, tripping over dead friends. This isn't over until you get revenge. Final girls try to survive in a violent world. It's eye for an eye. Hide behind doors, lying underneath beds, trying to bide your time and find your strength, and figure out how much time it takes to escape before it's too late, or come face to face with a grim fate. Welcome to ClassHorrorCast. Let's see how long you last as you torture to death. So come join your host Darren and Tomcat as we bring you a podcast that will leave you laughing in a body bag or a bloodbath. Welcome to ClassHorrorCast. Let's see how long you last.
Welcome to ClassHorrorCast. I'm your host, as always, Aaron, joined by my co-host, Tom. Today we're focusing on Robert Eggers' highly regarded Nosferatu remake. We're going to explore... Yeah, actually. We're going to try and explore how this modern reimagining compares to the 1922 silent classic and what makes Eggers' vision a fresh take on this iconic vampire tale. So let's dive in. The 2024-2025 Nosferatu movie reimagines the 1922 silent film, blending classic horror with its modern cinematic techniques. So I'll just break down a couple of things before we jump into this. Obviously directed by Robert Eggers, who is known for The Witch from 2015 and The Lighthouse in 2019. Count Orlok is played by Bill Skarsgård. Lily Rose Depp, who is obviously Johnny Depp's daughter, plays
She got
Ellen.
hard nipples on her. Hard nipples.
There's something like really attractive about her. It's weird. I don't know how to explain it.
She looks like an alien.
Yeah, and she has the same like weird forehead like I do, like that weird like big. It's like when RoboCop takes his helmet off.
Yeah.
And Nicholas Hoult is plays her husband. I can't remember his name, but he's very good as well. I always remember him as a kid in fucking About a Boy. Such a good movie with Hugh Grant.
What about a boy? What is about that boy?
Oh, it's such a good movie. I want to do that movie for Off-Brand sometime. Also keep this in mind. This has nothing to do with Nosferatu, and I'm just going to leave this in the episode anyway. Next Off-Brand thing I want to do is like a full like Scooby-Doo thing.
Okay, we have to do that, but man, we gotta eventually. There's actually we gotta do Dennis the Menace too. I want to try to bring Billy on that one though, so I'll have to figure that out.
So this movie is set in the 19th century Eastern Europe. The film follows Ellen, a young woman who was haunted by the enigmatic Count Orlok. Filmed in Prague with sets inspired by historical locations in Germany and Transylvania, including Corvin Castle in Romania and Arnstein Castle in the Czech Republic. Box office as of January 10th, 2025, the film had grossed $77 million in the US and Canada and $31.2 million internationally, totaling over $108 million worldwide.
What was it made for?
Right now, I want to say that that's even bigger. I feel like I read an article earlier today. It was made for $50 million and it currently sits at $137 million. I think.
Pretty good.
But I have a sneaking suspicion that it's even higher than that right now. I definitely seen an article earlier about that. Nosferatu is about to overtake the 2024 horror revival at the global box office. Okay, so let's see. Movie has become an instant hit with critics and audiences alike, praising its dedication, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, so it is. What is the highest grossing horror movie of all time? Nosferatu and Smile 2 will feature in the list of 75 highest grossing horror films of all time.
Wow, pretty good.
Let's see.
Still have to see Smile 2. I heard good things.
Very good, yeah. Two other 2024 flicks are on the list. Quiet Place Day 1, which is in the 19th spot with 260 million, and Alien Romulus climbing as high as 6th with an enormous haul of 350 million. Um, 2017's It has a staggering $701 million worldwide,
Boy,
which is
that's pretty
more than
wild.
200 million ahead of the second place movie, which is Jaws. Rounding out the top five are It Chapter 2 in third place, the original Exorcist in the fourth place, and 2018's The Nun in fifth place.
What? That movie was fucking garbage.
Holy Testicle Tuesday!
So yeah, it's making shit tons of money. I
I got my
So
own.
I don't know, like, yeah, how do we want to go about this? I don't like. I don't even know how to start like our thoughts.
break down? Tell me the synopsis.
Okay, let me give you the full. I had it here a second ago. Jesus, that's a really big one. I mean, a lot of the plot breakdown is it's either, 25 pages long, or it's as simple as a gothic tale of obsession between a haunted young woman and a terrifying vampire who is infatuated with her, causing untold horror in its wake.
Yeah, I got pretty stoned and then went to the theater.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was.
You didn't see this the day it came out, right?
I saw it New Year's Eve.
Yeah, I think wasn't that the day it came out?
Christmas, I think it came out.
No, it didn't. It came out it technically came out New Year's Day.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, it was I really liked it. We'll talk about my dislikes or our dislikes or whatever. But like aesthetically, it looks great. It kind of brings you into that atmosphere of that time period. All the acting is like prime, it's prime rib. You cut into it and it's like very juicy, very tender. Everyone does their roles perfectly. What did you think? Like, what was your first take? Because you heard I told you I saw it before you, and then we kind of talked about it.
Yeah, like you had said it was good, and I had seen conflicting reports on it. A lot of people were like, wow, because everyone was so excited to see it. Even people, I feel like, from being on TikTok and different places, people that I wouldn't say are like genre fans or even movie fans seemed to be like talking about going to see this, which I thought for a start was a really cool thing, that it somehow Nosferatu had become like mainstream.
Yeah, it's crazy because we saw a lot of like younger people, like a lot of like late teens to early 20s. We saw like some goth kids, that I haven't seen that in a while, because that was a big thing in my day and age. Was like emo style, goth style. It's still there, but it's not as popular as it was when I grew up. And yeah, it's surprising. I did see a fair amount of young people on dates, and it got more recognition, because I do feel like I even said to the wife, I was like, I can bet you half of these people have never seen the original. And if they had, it was because they heard about this one.
I would say at a stretch, some of the people might have seen the images of the original Nosferatu and maybe like a little quick like TikTok clip or something.
Or SpongeBob.
Yeah, but like other than that, I'd say they have no idea about it. But yeah, I had seen some stuff, and more actually from like within the movie / horror community, where people were kind of coming back and being like, pile of garbage. And I was a little bit like, oh no. So I wasn't, because me, we spoke about this before. Anytime there's a horror movie that comes out, I don't care what it is, I'm normally like the first one in the theater. Yeah. So for me not to have been there on New Year's Day alone or with somebody else is like kind of unheard of.
Yeah.
So I don't know, that kind of put me off a bit. And then when you said it was good, I was like, oh, okay, now I feel like now I need to go and see it.
Yeah, I really liked it, but even the wife was like, some of the parts were kind of strange, and I was like, yeah, well, it's creative freedom.
Here's some of the stuff, right, that I had seen, some just like headlines and stuff that I've pulled from the internet and different things like that. 1 out of 10, staggering disappointment. 1 out of 10, rubbish. 1 out of 10, Nosferatu, no thank you, a cinema catastrophe. Don't waste your time. This movie doesn't live up to the hype. Loud swells of music is nothing more than a jump scare. Nothing masterful or special about this film. No plot, boring, slow, long, too loud, horrible. Not a
This is
vampire
the
movie.
These are the people that I don't think understand cinema. Like they don't understand actual storytelling. They're the generation that lives on TikTok, and they have the capacity to be able to watch a maybe a 3-minute video at the most before they get bored. That's what TikTok has done, especially to the new generations, is like their capacity to be able to sit and watch and enjoy something longer than a couple minutes to an hour it doesn't exist now because they've been like instant gratification fed through their phone, because like I've loved cinema my entire life, and I know that it can be used to manipulate and brainwash people, but you have to look at it objectively and understand like what the director's going for. And there's like there's movies that I said before that people praise that are like horrific, that are terrible movies, especially the recent comedy movies and stuff like that. But this movie, it drew you in. It gave you the right feeling. I do think it was. I will say I think it was slightly a little too long. I think
Yeah.
there's stuff that they could have cleaned up a bit, but overall, like the atmosphere, Robert Eggers, I think is phenomenal at setting the atmosphere. The Witch is probably one of my favorite horror movies. It's up there. Like it's so well done and gets you on the edge of that idea of what it was like back then and how everyone starts pointing the finger at each other of who these people are. But yeah, the look of it was I can't wait to rewatch it and then to get another take and really analyze the film, because there's some scenes where it's like it gives you that creepy vibe, and that shot right there is awesome.
Here's one. What do you think about this? What was this movie about, really? Was it a vampire story or an exorcism tale? Each genre of movie has its own unique fantasy. The mixing of genres can be quite frustrating for me. I have seen Bram Stoker's Dracula, but I have not seen Nosferatu 1922 or Nosferatu the Vampire 1979. So I saw the previous two versions and was ready to watch the new one. It completely surprised me. It felt more like an exorcism movie than a vampire movie. On the other hand, the erotic scenes in the film were entirely unnecessary and out of place. I wish this movie had a different name. It would have spared me from the constant comparing and contrasting it with the other previous films. It looks like Egbert has made another boring movie.
See, I don't necessarily agree. I think that those, like I said, those people don't understand cinematography and what he's going for is like a different take, right? And he was trying to do something new. Like we'll get into the mustache stuff later. But this I think he did a good job, and I think that like it's with a reimagination of a film, when you're reimagining it's going to be different, and there's going to be different artistic takes that somebody will put into the film. And the original Nosferatu stands alone, and to be honest, I would rather watch this new Nosferatu than I would Bram Stoker's Dracula. You
Ooh.
like it that much? That's a controversial take, but I don't mind that film. I've watched it many times, but like I don't know. They're different they're very different in a lot of ways. Maybe like they would be tied for me. Of what would I rather watch kind of thing, because there's good and bad points for both of them.
For both of them, yeah. There's a
You
lot
know
of
what I
stuff
mean? How
in
to
Bram
compare.
that I don't like.
But when I was a kid, I really did like that scene on the bed with all the vampire ladies. With what's that guy's name? It was like
Even still now.
Keanu Reeves, bro. Or whatever. I can't do a Keanu Reeves, but everyone.
But it's funny to see, right? So then you take some of those ones I pull, like the negative, like awful, whatever. And then if we go to the other end of the spectrum, we have things like unforgettable horror classic, a kind of worldless terror which very, very few horror movies manage to elicit. Robert Eggers is an artistic treasure for the ages, best vampire movie in a long time, gothic masterpiece. This film is difficult for me to digest, for within all of horror literature and cinema, the cult of Dracula and Nosferatu hold the most special place in my heart. Now this and Bram Stoker's Dracula sit atop a mountain. Masterpieces. Eggers redefines timeless, stunning, mad masterpiece.
Yeah, I
This
will
is
agree. Like I will rephrase that. I really do like Bram Stoker's Dracula. I've read the book. I was trying to reread it again a couple of years ago at the cottage, but the beginning kind of bores me. It's just like more of the letters and stuff like that. But I think that movie is a masterpiece, and Gary Oldman did a great job.
yeah,
It's it stands alone on its own. But yeah, I do think they both have very positive things about them when it comes to vampire movies, and there's been so many. Like the vampire and paces where like werewolves and vampires and Frankenstein, all those things have been staples in cinema, especially early cinema, right? Of telling these monster stories, and then there's an underlying like thing of sacrifice and how they've been misunderstood a lot of times. And I was a big fan of Bela Lugosi. My grandfather liked all those kind of old horror movies, didn't like the slasher gory ones, but he liked like Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein, stuff like that, in the original Dracula and Frankenstein. There's classic movies that eventually I would love to cover. Do like a Universal Monsters episode. We've talked about this. I would like to do that at some point and just kind of analyze those films. But I don't know. There's something about this one and just the feel of it. And I would love to talk to Robert Eggers one day and get him on the show, shout it out, hopefully he can come on sometime. It would be really cool to have a talk with him because I just love his aesthetic look at things and how he chooses to kind of push the boundaries on what cinema is and make it more like classical almost in a way. You know what I mean? That he doesn't,
yeah.
It's very interesting how he chooses to do, and he's decently young, and listening to him talk about some of this stuff and how he just like loved the original Nosferatu. And I think that was it him? I think it was him that said that he was watching it and he just had it on some beaten up VHS tape and there was no sound to it at all, and it creeped him out even more. I think that was him that was talking about. I don't think it was Bill Skarsgård, but I think it was him. And he said that it just creeped him out that there was no score on it, and he's like, I don't know if it would have made such an imprint in my mind if there was some sort of like score on it.
I mean, it's kind of crazy as well. One thing I do like is I feel like and I don't want people will probably take this way out of context now and maybe clip this and be like, oh, you're comparing him to that. But like, I'm not putting him in the category with somebody like Rob Zombie or some of those directors like Quentin Tarantino and things like that. And I know people shit on me, Eli Roth, but I am in the context of what he's been able to do. Like, he remakes Nosferatu, and that's what you get. You get Robert Eggers' Nosferatu.
Yeah.
You don't get like, somebody else's version with his name on the top of it. Like, this feels like a Robert Eggers movie, which I think is great. And the fact that he's like, it's made so much money now and it's kind of become mainstream. I think that's only a good thing for both horror and for cinema.
I agree.
Films like this can be seen as, because we did hit I feel like a period there. And look, I don't hate it either. Like, there's a lot of, schlocky, like slasher, like even like teeny slashers that I just enjoy. It's like a quick 80 minutes, 90 minutes, and I enjoy that too. But I feel like at one stage for cinema there, that's all we were getting. We were getting like PG-13. If your movie wasn't called like Happy Death Day or like Time Cut or The Babysitter or, one of those Freaky Friday things or whatever it's called, if it wasn't one of those movies, it's like nobody's going to
a monster movie too. Like in some of the A Quiet Place, I don't mind too much. I didn't really like the new one. So like there's been some kind of downfalls of some of the stuff, and I'll say it. I think it has to do with some of the woke agenda stuff, but like how it takes away from the story and the acting by trying to facilitate this DEI higher bullshit and stuff like that. And I love horror movies. That's why I'm like, I don't think you need to facilitate an agenda on top of cinema. I think it should be somewhere where people can escape that world and obviously utilize people where you can. Horror has done a lot for the Black community, in my opinion. There's been a lot of things that they push the boundaries on, especially back in the day, even to do with some of the zombie movies that were done. You know what I mean? So like we've had that thing for a long time. So you gotta be put in the place like of where it is. Like even have him watching the Northman for the first time, right? I like that it wasn't this woke thing like Vikings were white. You have to have just white people in that film. It can't be anything else because that's not accurate history of what they're trying to portray. And I actually really liked it. Like it took me a little bit to get really into it, but I was like, afterwards, I was like, I really like that. That was like really good, and just showed that visceral like what was going on at that time. You know what I mean? I thought he did a really good job.
Yeah, and he's a huge history buff as well. So like even with this movie, and I'm really interested too. This will be one of the movies I'd say I'm going to pick up the Blu-ray for when it comes out because I want to hear the director's commentary, because I have a sneaking suspicion that he's going to go step by step and explain all the little things you didn't notice or see. Like he said, there was a lot of pre-production where there was like really minute like attention to detail about like costumes, locations, how everything needed to be like specific to the time. Obviously, the story is a quote unquote fake story. It's not real, it's fantasy, but it was like I wanted it to live within the time frame and I wanted everything to be historically correct. So there's
I would
a
like
lot
to hear that
that
too.
just like goes over people's heads that it's like, oh yeah, whatever, it's just in Transylvania or it's in Europe somewhere. Wow, who cares? And he was like, no, it's way more than that. It's not just, we didn't just put it somewhere for the sake of putting it there. Everything had its place and its purpose. And it must be crazy full circle for him as well, because I heard him tell the story about he was like obsessed with the Nosferatu movie as a kid and growing up, and then like he got to do a stage play for his like theater thing or whatever.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and it became a big thing. And he was like, it's kind of been like this lifelong journey to get to this point, and now to see this happen, it's like kind of wild.
It's funny. I've always been kind of creative. It kind of shows like my thing. It's just interesting. It just made me think of a story. My grade 6 teacher wrote this play about a werewolf. And it was a lot of fun. And you had to like act out being a werewolf on stage or in the classroom. And it was me and then this kid was kind of a loser. But like I acted out, everyone loved it. I was always into horror and stuff like that. And then he did a decent job. And I was gonna be the werewolf, but I liked the idea of being the bully. Like, at a campfire, it's like you got me and my 2 other buddies are like the punk rockin' bullies, and they let us do we did like a song for like during the play or whatever, like we're at the campfire and we were allowed to pick the song, and we did I believe in a thing called love, and it was like just so ridiculous. I could have been a werewolf, but being a bully made me laugh more and wanted to do that. But like this stuff was always stuck with me, right? I've always been so into this idea, and like me, I thought I was a werewolf at one point when I was like 8 years old or whatever it was.
That's one of my favorite stories I think you've ever told.
So funny.
I can't even remember what episode that was on, guys. I wish I could tell you to go back and just look at that, because it is one of the funniest. It's just how you told the story as well, I feel like, is like even better. But yeah, like, I mean, this is getting quite highly regarded as well by, I guess, critics and stuff. David Rooney of The Hollywood Reporter described it as exciting, repulsive, and beautiful, praising its sustained fear and hypnotic horror, which, I would definitely say it's kind of like a hypnotic feel to it. David Ehrlich of IndieWire highlighted Depp's performance and Eggers' direction, noting the film's spellbinding power throughout. Audience responses, cinema score reports an average grade of B- from audiences.
It's pretty good.
Would be fair. Yeah, it definitely actually, just from them saying like spellbinding power and hypnotic horror, I definitely felt that. Now, I will agree with what you said.
Some of those scenes when they're like, where it's like right at her face, like when she's like Lily Rose Depp, she's like, and it's just like, that shit. It's so freaky, and I don't know. She did a really good job. It was funny because it did remind me a lot of the original, of things that I even forgot about the original, and the whole love tale and because even when I originally watched it when I was a kid, like I wasn't picking up on that stuff, and I waited because I haven't seen the original in many years. But that's why I wanted to wait till we covered it and did a watch along. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. It
To get more of
like
a fresh look at it.
I will agree with you. I definitely felt like it was a tad too long for my liking. There was a couple of things I probably would have trimmed out to kind of make it a little bit tighter. I wouldn't have made it a 90-minute movie
No.
by anything, but like I think it was like 2 hours and let me see, what's the
There's
exact
just stuff that was like a little drawn out. You know
yeah,
what I
like
mean?
if you had to tighten it up a bit, it would have. And I know we don't want to make it like a PG-13, like like 2 hours and 12 minutes is the exact runtime. I think you could have made it under 2 hours and it would have been fine.
Yeah.
But
Some of
yeah,
the scenes are pretty brutal though. Like one thing I didn't expect is like when I can't remember the character's name, but his like homie that like helps him out while he's struggling and his wife is going through all that kind of possession. She is being possessed in some regard, where the kids get like pretty much eaten.
Frederick Harding, I think, is it?
Yeah.
That's
When the kids get like eaten eight or whatever, like that shit was like horrifying. I was like, whoa, they actually like did that. Like, and I was pretty messed up and just how he like picks them up was like pretty messed up. I was like, wow, that scene actually shocked me because I didn't know if they were going to go that far. And I liked it. Spot
Do you
on.
know who I really liked as well? And even just his voice, and he like I've seen him in other movies, and I'm trying to think now off the top of my head, what do I know him? Oh, sure, he plays William from The Witch, the English guy. He plays the doctor in this one, Dr. Wilhelm Sievers or whatever.
Yeah,
Remember
yeah.
he's in charge of, like the hospital or whatever.
Oh, really? That was him? That's funny.
Yeah, that's the dad or whatever from The Witch.
Huh.
Remember, he has that really deep. He
Yeah.
has a really deep voice, but like he was like all his scenes I thought were incredible. Like when he brings what is it, knock? When they have him
Yeah.
tied down in the like cell or whatever.
He eats that fucking pigeon and shit too. That shit's fucked up.
That's
Whatever it
grim.
was.
And I loved that there was a scene where they showed like that weird twist where he's naked and he has like the thing drawn and like the candles are all burning.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
doing some sort of weird fucking ritual. I was like, this is so up my alley. I kind of,
Yeah. Oh
I'm not
yeah.
gonna lie, I kind of wanted a little bit more of that stuff.
Yeah, me too. More like, and we'll talk about it when we do the commentary and stuff like that. Is like there is a bunch of occult stuff behind the original film, like real legit occult stuff. It's pretty wild. The guy was super into the guy that created the first one, and what was his name, Matt Schreck or whatever. He was also really into the occult. Yeah, but there was some like I was surprised. There was some pretty brutal scenes where it kept me on the edge, and the idea of like the plague, which was a big fear for a lot of people, especially back in that time period. And the rats all over that chick. I was like, oh man, that's so wild. Like it just looks, it just makes you feel uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Kind of turns your like your stomach upside down.
Yeah, it's just now that I'm thinking about it, there was like way more like kind of crazy stuff in that than I thought.
Mm-hmm. That you
If that makes
expect.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know if I expected that, to be honest. There's a lot happens. A lot of the scenes, I don't know. I can't stop going back to that idea now of it being like kind of hypnotic. There's a lot of
Yeah,
scenes where like, you kind of get lost in them. You don't even realize.
when she's freaking out and like tearing off her clothes or whatever, that he fucks her and like all like it's so yeah. I don't some of that stuff. I'm like, wow, it made me feel uncomfortable. The thing with her tongue made my wife feel. She was like, I don't like that. It's like
Yeah,
when it was coming out of her mouth and doing all that weird. Oh, I'm like, what the hell? And then you have to you definitely have to praise Willem Dafoe's character. Like he did such a good job, and he was in interview with a not interview with a vampire. What's that movie called?
Shadow of the Vampire. He played
I,
Max Shrek.
yeah, dude, I used to love that movie when I was a kid. I just saw it and I watched it. I remember for watching it the first time when I was like, I don't know, I must have been like 14 or something like that, maybe 13. And it's a pretty fun film. Like it's weird. And I watched it for the fact that Nosferatu was in it, right?
I would love to do maybe like a Patreon watch along of that for people who don't know. For people who don't know, Shadow of a Vampire is a movie where it's about the making of the Nosferatu 1922 movie. But the production of Nosferatu had to deal with a lot of strange things. Obviously, crew members disappearing, some died, blah, blah, blah. So this movie kind of focuses on the relationship between Murnau, the director, and Shrek, the lead actor. And they kind of like,
I brought it up on the. If you,
they kind of like, I suppose it's like the idea of like Max Shrek actually being a vampire.
yeah, it's actually really weird, and they don't know if he is. And that's William Dafoe right there. So he looks creepy, dude.
So, yeah, he does actually. He's one of my favorite actors. That dude is weird.
100%. I haven't seen it in a while. I'd love to revisit it. Also, I've never seen. You know how they remade Nosferatu in the 70s?
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about? I've never seen that one. There,
Neither have I.
and you haven't?
No.
Isn't there something weird about one of the guys that was involved
Probably.
in that movie? I think the guy that played the vampire Nosferatu. I thought there was something weird with him with children or some messed
There
up
could
stuff.
be. There could very well be. That
Maybe
Shadow
we'll
of the
cover that at some point because
Yeah.
we both haven't seen it. I don't like reading subtitles, not gonna lie, but I will watch it for the sake that it's Nosferatu, and I've actually heard good things about it.
that Shadow of the Vampire, I feel like that's an interesting one for a lot of people because some people don't know about it. But so the whole basis for that movie is it's partly based on a legend that Max Schreck, who played Count Orlok in the original, was in reality a vampire, which is why he played the role of Orlok or Dracula so well. Some variations of the legend suggest that Nosferatu, a symphony of horror from 1922, was the only film Shrek made, though in reality he was already a stage and screen veteran by the time Nosferatu was shot and would appear in many non-vampiric roles before his death in 1936. But there was actually like a lot of people were like, yeah, he only made that movie, and that was the only movie he made because he's an actual vampire, and like it wasn't his thing. Also, another cool thing for Willem Dafoe, he was nominated for an Academy Award for his performance in Shadow of a Vampire, and he is the only actor in history that has ever been nominated for an Academy Award for the portrayal of a vampire.
That's awesome. He's a definitely a wild character, and for everybody watching this in the next probably week or two, probably time you hear this too, we will be doing a watch along of the original Nosferatu, and it will be out on audio for everybody listening too, because we're going to be able to break it down because they're just watching it, so you can enjoy it with us, either watch it or whatever, or even listening to it. It's going to be really fun because I'm going to bring some stuff about the occult aspect of it, and there's a lot of weird things about the original film. And they were like maybe not vampires, but they were what you could call a wizard. Technically, a lot of them were into these weird rituals and stuff like that. Even the director, there's some weird stuff. And they were both in World War I, both the director and Max Schreck or whatever. It's very weird. I found this article about when vampires reel along across your victim. Weird. Yeah, and like there. Well, yeah, I'll bring this up maybe sometime. I just gotta read.
There's the guy you were talking about, right? His friend.
Yeah, that guy like goes crazy, man.
Yeah.
That's so nuts.
That's Aaron Taylor Johnson.
He looked familiar.
Yeah, he's a very good actor. Yeah, like the characters in this are absolutely fantastic as well. And the way some of the scenes are shot like this, I look at it sometimes and it has this weird, like, it looks like a fake background, or like, I don't know, it looks like some real life version of like Nightmare Before Christmas or something.
Yeah, I agree. It almost reminded me kind
Burton.
of Tim Burton a little bit, but like its own thing.
Yeah,
You know what
I don't mean
like,
that like to compare it to that, but like it has this weird. Sometimes when I look at it, it nearly feels like a modern day, like, well, that's what it is, but a modern day version of the 1922 film. It looks like it's shot like that, and I'm like, so weird looking. And I would imagine they're all conscious decisions, obviously.
Oh, weird. I just want to read this. So, once upon a time, vampires were not just the this stuff of nightmares and terrors. Of his Nosferatu. All across Europe, the remains of victims of vampire mania have been found. This sounds like an episode from my show. One example brought vividly to life in recent Sky history documentary Field of Vampires was a skeleton of a teenager found in rural Poland with a sickle across her neck and a padlock on her toes. Whoa.
Weird.
I'll show you the image. And this is like there is originally when we did the very first episode of this show, we talked about stuff like this. Why does not let me bring that up? And the idea of like people believe that there was like real vampires and stuff like that. It's like crazy. Okay, it's not letting me bring it up, but why is it not letting me look up that? Whatever. But it's there is a lot of tales about people went through this thing where they thought everybody was like a vampire. I don't know why it's not letting me bring it up. Oh well. But yeah, there's like that's why you had the idea of like when you go to a grave, and this is like a real thing in some places where they would have like they'd have a little peephole thing, so you could see down into the grave to see if they were like still alive, because people would be buried alive and they'd have bells and stuff like that. Crazy. Or like there's that one grave where people think like dispute if it's actually real or whatever. I think we got called out for it on one of the shows me and Billy were doing. I thought it was like a real thing, but they supposed to be there's like cages built over certain graves because they thought that they were going to come to life and stuff. And
there was also, this is completely off topic, but so that guy there, Aaron Taylor Johnson,
yeah,
I seen lots of stuff online, something to do with his dick or something
What?
in the movie. He plays that best friend guy who takes
Yeah,
care of them. I don't know, like I seen loads of chicks posting stuff on TikTok and all that were like, oh, it's like impossible to like ignore like the outline of his like flute throughout the whole movie.
what?
I
Weird.
don't know. Yeah, it became like this big thing that like everyone was talking about or something that he was like packing. I was like, what?
Weird. Of course they would notice that shit.
And have you
And
seen
then-
that thing as well about everybody's doing these weird TikToks now, and they're like, it's like an impersonation of Nosferatu and something about where he says like, "You must bounce on it."
No,
Have you
I've
heard
never
it?
seen that.
Supposedly he says that in the movie.
What?
I don't know. I don't know if that's a thing or not. Or I got like fucking yeah. I don't
Weird.
know. See everybody like talking about that. Yeah, there's something like weird about her, but I like it about Lily Rose Depp.
Yeah. Jesus.
She's like unconventional looking, but I kind of like it.
She's probably an alien, or a man or something
It
like
looks like one.
that. But yeah, she got some some fucking nips on her, bro. That
You
one
do,
scene, you're like, holy fuck, they rubbed
I know,
ice
yeah.
on her for sure.
I was just looking at like some of the comparisons between like the original and this one. Obviously, the 1922 film is a silent black and white expressionist piece, while Eggers' version utilizes color desaturated to evoke a gothic atmosphere and incorporates modern horror elements like some jump scares.
And do you know when this is? Do you know when Nosferatu came out? We'll talk about it maybe just a little bit. I won't dig in too much to it. But it was during the time in Germany when the Weimar Republic was in power. So if you guys want to know anything about that, make sure to check out Strange Brew podcast, especially the audio will come out in a bit. But the Weimar Republic was a wild time in Germany, to say the least. And we did 2 parts on that. They're not out in audio yet, but it's a very controversial topic, to say the least. And this film came out of that whole era of where they were pushing the boundaries on things and stuff. So she's probably a clone or something. She kind of looks
Yeah,
like a
it kind of
clone.
looks. Yeah, the more I look at her, I'm like weird.
Yeah.
I do definitely like though. Like I was looking up stuff, so like the original emphasizes the spread of plague and Orlok's menace, while Eggers' adaptation delves into Ellen's psychological state, highlighting her hallucinations and the hypnotic influence of Orlok. I don't know why I keep going back to that, but there's definitely some sort of like weird, like hypnotic thing about. Maybe I won't get the same feeling when I watch it at home. But for some reason, while watching that, and I went on my own, I didn't go with anybody, and like it was quite hypnotizing actually from start to finish, considering it was over 2 hours long. Like I felt quite like I don't know, like quite like sleepy and like in a trance, but not like bored, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I could see. Yeah, definitely. I definitely kind of felt the same too. It is kind of hypnotic, and God knows what type of spell they were putting on us.
There's the dude that has the really cool voice and he's a really good
yeah.
actor.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about some of the negative things?
Sure, shoot.
Weird. Okay, I don't know how to mention that shit, but I'll tell you off air. Just remind me.
Sure.
So I'm not gonna just talk about it on the show. But just something I looked up just about this film, some of the shit we were talking about. So like I loved a lot of it. There's a couple things where I'm like, not necessary. Let's talk about the mustache. I love the original look of Nosferatu. I understand this is a reimagining and this is different and stuff like that. But like what made Nosferatu so iconic was the look of him. Someone at work said I'll tell you also off air, but he looks like some sort of creature to do with a country in the Middle East. And you know what I mean? And who knows if that was drawn off from it. But the idea of like the two fangs in the front, that was so iconic to do with Nosferatu. And I didn't see that. Like he didn't have the two fangs in the front. And also the mustache, I just felt was unnecessary. I felt like the original look, there we go, of Nosferatu was iconic. And I don't like, the more I see it and when I thought about it after, I didn't mind it. I'm saying I didn't mind it.
It is
but
very jarring though. When you first see it, it's like,
Yeah.
sorry, like that looks like it literally looks like those. Remember, like when you were a kid, you could go to like those, like I don't know, like a costume store or like one of those joke shops, and you could buy like the stick-on mustache.
Yeah. And the way when you first see it, it's like I think it's like it's pretty close to the screen, and it's just this big bushy mustache. As much as he does have some hair on his body, but he's supposed to be a decaying corpse, right? Why would his mustache hair stay on, but pretty much the rest of his hair on his body and most of the hair on his head is non-existent, but yet he has this huge bushy mustache. And I just like the original look of Nosferatu. I think it's very iconic, and I wish they stuck more to that.
Yeah, I just wasn't
like
crazy.
Look at that bushy mustache. Why?
I really wasn't crazy on the mustache, I'll be honest with you.
And I think the idea of like trying to relate it back to Vlad the Impaler, which me and Billy covered on it, we went off topic talking about controversial stuff, but like I get the idea of trying to relate it back to that. But it wasn't necessary. I thought it was just a bad aesthetic choice. I don't think they should have done it. I think they should have made it like the original look of Count Orlok, right? It made it look close to the original, but maybe add some more depth into his face and more sunken eyes, or really try to draw out that emaciated vampire look. You know what I mean?
Also, another thing, just while I've seen that image of Nicholas Hoult when he gets out through the window and the dogs are chasing him in the castle.
Yeah.
And he's like on that little ledge, and then he falls off that ledge and lands in like the river below. How is he still alive?
Yeah, I know. Well, it's because he got bit or whatever. Is he actually like?
Yeah, is that supposed to be like what? Because like I'm like, so because instantly when I seen that at first, I was like, all right, so he's just dead then.
Yeah.
He's obviously just dead. But
I
then
didn't
he's
pick up
not
on
dead.
that.
He's
Yeah.
just like back alive.
Yeah, I know. And like in the other one, which you brought up, is the whole like death scene where she sacrifices herself. I don't know, could have been done in a different way, and how then it zooms out and they really focused on her nipples, man, like a lot. Just like that whole shot of like these could cut glass with that shit, and then they zoom out, and you mentioned this, that then he has these tiny little legs.
I just didn't like that at all. Not that I wanted him to be like hugely muscular and thing. Now, maybe the desired effect is exactly what he wanted, where I was looking at it going, oh, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like maybe that was what he wanted you to like think about it, but it literally it reminded me of like, and I suppose maybe that's kind of what the goal was, but like, when you see a bat and like a bat obviously has wings and like a body, but then has
Yeah,
the
maybe is that what he was going for?
little tiny like twig legs.
Can you find that image and bring it up?
I was actually trying earlier. Do you know how hard it is actually to find like decent images of like the Count Orlok himself from this movie?
Weird. I guess they're
Yeah.
trying to really. It's going to be released at some point. They're going to have
They're
to.
all like weird, like blurry images that like people took on phones that are on like Instagram and stuff.
Yeah. Aesthetically, it looks awesome. Oh, also one thing that I said that I told you that I didn't like, or I wish it was a focus. So you see, weird. Yeah, I don't know. I don't like the mustache. I think he could have looked better. I'm sorry, but I do think that he could have looked a little better. That's one main point. There could have the mustache.
I really think I could have done without the mustache.
And maybe
Another
that was
thing-
like the maybe that's what it's supposed to gross people out. I don't know, because it is
Another
gross when you think
thing
about like
that,
blood dripping from a mustache.
that I found a little bit strange. How did you feel about his voice?
Oh yeah, I actually really did like the voice, and I was trying to look for. I wanted to see Bill Skarsgård do it without like the makeup on, and I heard like a clip where he gets kind of does it, like it's very quick, like he doesn't really actually do it, but he had some vocal training, I think by somewhat opera singer or something like that, to be able to bring his voice down to that octave. Because I'd love to see him actually say a sentence in the voice that he did, because it is surreal that it doesn't seem like it's him doing the voice, but it is.
Yeah, I like a lot of people don't like the idea of the mustache. There's a lot of people like, I don't mean to sound nitpicky, but Count Orlok's mustache, come on, it completely threw me off. Seeing the original, I have to say he was much freakier in that one,
I
even in
agree.
Shadow of the Vampire. The Count has a huge bushy mustache that makes him look more like a creepy Rasputin, minus the
Yeah,
beard.
that's
I
true.
just didn't
Actually,
take him seriously when I saw him.
we got to
It's
cover
just,
Rasputin on my side.
he just seemed like some guy. I'm not disappointed in the film. I just wish that he looked more unnerving. I kept waiting for a scene of him shaving it off. Lol, am I the only one?
It's true. I just didn't like the aesthetic look of it, and like I wanted it to look more like the original, and even the eyes and the teeth, and like to make it more emaciated, where he's like a corpse. He's like not really alive, right? Like he's a half dead vampire creature. Also, I was gonna say like I really loved the scene in the original where he's in the doorway. They showed the doorway, but I would have liked if they had him come through the doorway or had him just kind of lurking in the shadows in the doorway. I really like that scene of like, and it's just so, there's like certain things I wish he did just for fan service. I really do like the film. And I would love to talk to Robert Eggers one day. I will ask him about the mustache thing, just be like, really, why did you choose to do it? But, there was things that I wanted to be done for fan service. As bad as that sounds, I wanted that for the film because it is a reimagination, but still I wanted it to like hone into that still same look of the original. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. It's, yeah, I like, I don't know, like uh, it's grown on me a little bit, but I don't know if it'll ever completely go away from me where I'll be like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think that was a good choice.
I accept this.
Oh yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah,
It's like some of those.
it's very hard to like find
It
like
is freaky.
that looks quite freaky, but again,
Yeah.
it's the mustache. I'm like, why does he have a mustache?
I know.
Monsters and like
Maybe it will grow on me. I don't know. Like,
look, I know like a lot of it was said like that I seen Bill Skarsgård talked about Robert Eggers had written like a backstory for Count Orlok, apparently. So he had an interview on Fangoria, I think it was, and he said, this is a direct quote from that. There were a lot of different things. There was a Bulgarian movie called Time of Violence, a great movie over 4 hours long, set in Bulgaria in the 17th century. And there's this guy in the movie taking over a village and forcibly converting Christians. And it's incredibly violent and horrible. That performance was something Robert talked about a lot in terms of who Orlok could have been when he was alive. We talked about that a lot, and various things like little snippets from here and there. That was during the very early stages. Once you start delving deeper into the character, you start getting inspiration from whatever it is you're actually working on. And that creates the seeds for it to come out of. Robert also wrote an entire backstory for Orlok over multiple pages, which he shared with me, that was also very helpful. But I don't think he goes on to like say exactly what.
Yeah, and I heard Bill Skarsgård talk about how like Lily Rose Depp or whatever was like getting into her character and trying to channel it, doing some sort of like sounds like chaos magic shit, and invoke it and bring. She said she wanted to bring the character into her dreams and stuff like weird stuff like that, like some occult stuff, which I'm sure Johnny Depp is super into.
And all that, all that like convulsing and all that weird shit she done.
Mhm.
That was all her.
Yeah,
None of
It's-
that was like any sort of like stunt double, like contortionist or CGI or anything. They were like that every scene where she does any convulsing or anything like crazy weird where she looks like she suggests, that's all her.
she kind of freaked me out in this film, and I've seen her.
Yeah,
She's in like Kevin Smith films. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
we
she was
just
quite
talked about
weird.
Tusk, and then so even Bill was like, yeah, like I don't want to invoke Count Orlok into my dreams. No thanks. I don't like. He's like, when I become it, but I let go of it or something like that. And where it was interesting, where he's like, I don't want to bring him in to my dreams with me.
Yeah.
The way he even talked about it, it sounded weird to him that she was doing that. Freaky.
Yeah. Yeah, it is actually sort
So
of.
go back to that one image where it's like a, it like that. Like, come on, couldn't you have done something more like that? Where like I would have been really satisfied with. You can make it a little creepier than that, but that would have been a little more satisfying to me. You know what I mean? There we go. That horrible.
That is just dreadful. I don't know.
kind of get it now that he's like supposed to be burning away because I didn't see his arms and stuff like that, but I don't like the look of that. It makes
It's
me
the
feel weird.
legs just racing, and he has such a big like middle section, like his ribs and stuff are so
I don't like
wide.
it.
And then like he has those little tiny legs, which is kind of weird.
I don't like it. That shit was
that's
freaky though.
Yeah, that's quite unsettling. And the way her eyes are like rolled back in her head and stuff, I was like, that's
Yeah.
actually quite horrific, to be honest. Someone here said, I don't know how much of this is true or whatever, but someone on Reddit commented under like the article on Fangoria, and they were like, I'm just going to put on my Dracula nerd hat for a minute. There's a throwaway line in the book where Dracula is said to have become a vampire via mastery of the dark arts, which he learned from the devil at Sholomance, a sorcery academy hidden away. Think of this as an evil Hogwarts. In Nosferatu, when Thomas is being cared for by the nuns, it's mentioned that Orlok is a member of the Solomonari, which is a group that achieves mastery over the magics. There are only 10 to have ever achieved it. She also mentions that his body lives, but his soul belongs to the devil. So basically, Orlok sold his soul to attain his mastery and used what he's learned to become the vampire we see in the film. The vampire at the beginning was staked after his grave was found by the naked virgin on the white horse, was your standard revenant vampire, mindless and hungry. Orlok is different because he has the form of a standard revenant. His coming into vampirism via magic, as opposed to being turned, allowed him to maintain his personality, intelligence, and cunning behavior. I would assume prior to his becoming a vampire, he was intended to be a Romanian nobleman, if not Vlad Tepes himself, whom his appearance is clearly based on.
That kind of makes sense, and it's interesting the whole idea of the the dark occult usury of magic to gain power, because whether the fans of your show believe this or not, that stuff is very possible, and there is definitely people doing it. And I've said this on my show, right? It's like, you may not believe in the devil or demons, but the people that are controlling this world, and even people within your government, they definitely do, and they definitely have proven that they do. Oh, that's funny. That cop from Batman with the big stash. But and that's an interesting take. It actually makes it more kind of unsettling that he kind of acquired his powers and his immortality by invoking dark spirits, and maybe, you know, who knows, doing like child sacrifice or something crazy like that, and that's how he invoked it. I would love a little doll like that.
Now, for me, unfortunately, my vision of Nosferatu will always be the original with the little teeth and the thing.
100%.
I don't know if I'm ever going to be, and that's not a knock against
No.
this movie or how he looks or anything like that. I think this movie is fantastic, but I would be lying if I didn't say that. Like, I kind of wish he looked like
Yeah.
the original guy, but then at the same time, I can kind of get why they didn't do that, because you know what? If he had have done that, I can guarantee you that everyone is saying it's amazing would probably be the same people who'd be like, "Oh my god, he just ripped off the same,
Yeah, I know.
the same style character. I can't believe he done that."
Yeah, I know.
So
So
it's like,
kudos to him for trying to create something different. And there's so many scenes where it's like he is weird. That one that's up where he's in like the chamber room with the fire going.
Mhm.
That looks, it just looks creepy and stuff like that. And they did a good job. His like coat, and I don't know. I almost bought the popcorn box, and I was like, I don't need to buy that.
Oh,
Bullshit.
dude, yeah, no, I would have bought that. I had it been on sale here, I would have had that shit behind me right now.
It just didn't look that great for what I was gonna, like, you know, like get it for or whatever. But they were selling.
You know what else is was an extremely unsettling part, where he pulls back the top on like the coffin or whatever, and he stabs him, or does he stab him, or does he go to stab him, and then he like opens his eyes and like flies up out of the thing, and he's naked, and like you can see his dick and all.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing his dick, but that's fine.
Yeah,
I feel like
'cause
you did, I guess.
yeah, you do. And like he like runs away, but I just found that so weird, because he seems like he's about 10 foot tall.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I just found that like extremely unsettling for some reason.
Yeah, there's you know, it's there's I you know, I don't know. There's this the really, like I said to you when we first talked about this off air or whatever, like whatever that was a couple weeks ago, is that the things that I didn't like were just like aesthetic choices that I don't think like were necessary, or why choose that. But as a film overall, I'm trying to think of like out of fucking out of 10 out of 10 hard nipples, two iced rub hard little nipples. Even the wife was like, she's got weird nipples. This is so funny. And then so out of that, I honestly, like, I'll give it I don't know, I get 8.5, close to a 9. Like, I did really like it. I'm excited to rewatch it again. Like, it was really enjoyable, and I'm someone who does like to analyze cinema, and especially horror in general, and I did like it. What the fuck is that?
Do you know what that is?
No.
It's the prosthetic of
weird.
Nosferatu's dick.
That is so weird. I don't like the look of that. That's disgusting.
How gross.
Ew.
Blur
Ew, man. Uncut wang. Weird. Wizard sleeve. Shit's fucking terrifying.
So
it is weird. Like,
correct in saying that they actually gave that to him as like a gift. They framed the prosthetic and gave it to him.
Weird.
But yeah, that is actually a thing. So when you do rewatch it, when he flies up out of the coffin, just get a good look. You can see that his dong is hanging out in that, which I thought was really unsettling and not
just nice. Fucking weird. And they had the whole weird thing of like the the chick on the white horse, which was symbolizing some sort of like ritual to ward off or invoke the dark spirit. It seems like ward off, right? But like, it was interesting to see some of that. Because
what
obviously,
was the idea of that again? Were they like sacrificing her?
I think so. I'm trying to remember because I remember her riding on the naked horse. That was very memorable. But like, I don't remember what the whole. I think it was like definitely a ritual, but I think they were going to sacrifice her. That's what people don't understand, right? Even with the idea of like, this is more for my show, but the idea of sacrificing virgins. What is a virgin, right? It was those old stories and stories you hear about that stuff was about sacrificing kids. That's literally what it is. That's what a virgin is. That's what the virgins were in all these old movies and all the folklore and tales about that type of stuff with kids, like where they put, where they sacrifice them to, Moloch and some of these actual ancient Babylonian gods that they do believe in. So it's such a wild film. I actually really liked it. I'm excited to watch it again. And make sure everybody that hears this watches this on YouTube, Rumble, wherever you are, definitely support the show on Rumble. Everybody that's listening, even if you don't, like Rumble's a good app, man. I really like it. You can subscribe it on your Amazon thing, your PlayStation. It's everywhere now on your phone. Rumble is a good open free speech platform. And we're on there with ClassHorrorCast and Strange Food Podcast. But even if you're watching on YouTube, really hope you enjoyed the episode. But make sure to tune in to the watch along. Even if you just tune in after and listen to it, you can watch the movie with us. And it's going to be up, it should be up everywhere because it's a public domain movie. So I'm actually really excited for that. And then we can kind of break down more of our thoughts on the original, which that's why we had planned to just kind of give us a review of this and, kind of just explain our thoughts. Who knows if this will come up in a future episode, but I'm actually really excited to do the watch along. I haven't seen the movie in, it's like 10 years, maybe a little longer.
It's probably even longer for me, to be honest.
Can't remember.
But yeah, everything Tom said times 10. Appreciate everyone for taking time. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We could probably just ramble on and
yes,
we'll go into vampires and we'll go into the occult and we'll go into this and that. So we're trying to like narrow it down. It's very hard though with some of these movies that have all this subtext. It's very hard not for
makes me think, right? It makes it what they're trying to tell, the story they're trying to tell, right?
Sometimes when you think you don't have much to say about something and then you start to have a conversation back and forth with somebody like-minded and then it's like, oh yeah, but what about this? And what about if that thing? And what about this thing? Like I'm just looking through some of the notes I had here and like I didn't even touch on some of the other stuff. Like, the original movie is supposed to be like a cursed film and all this stuff happened behind the scenes. And
we need to talk about it on that because doing the watch along, we can add a lot of that stuff to it. I've even somewhat discussed this film at the same time. I'm actually really excited to do that. So
and there's even a lot of stuff that tied in with this film. Like a lot of people reckon the original was cursed, and this kind of had lots of stuff as well. Like, I mean, this movie was 10 years, I think, in the making. Like this was originally floating around in 2015 and it only came out in New Year's Day 2025, like, which is crazy. But yeah, we appreciate everyone for listening. All the usual links will be down below in the description wherever you're listening or watching along with us. I would like to give a little shout out to some of the people who are obviously watching live right now. Obviously, if you're listening to the podcast form of this, you won't be listening to it live. But yeah, there is currently 28 people. Nobody commented for some reason. But if you would like to comment, let us know what you thought of the movie, if you've seen it or not, what you liked or disliked about the movie. And yeah, check out our socials and stay tuned. We have lots coming soon.
100%. Very excited. X is a weird platform for live because people will tune in and watch, but not a lot of people comment. Rumble is a great source for that. So everyone support the Rumble, YouTube, and all that good stuff. It's the best way to support us. And we're trying to build up the Rumble. So we'll try to go live there more often because that's how you get people in.
We will. So yeah, appreciate everyone for taking the time. And yeah, see you in the next one. Peace.